Every family has their secrets. Most, like you and I, would be considered normal, nothing that anyone would fret about if they found out. However, there are families out there with secrets so dark and disturbing that if you knew about them, they would send chills up your spine. The following are just those families. Here are 10 creepy families with scary secrets. Number 10 is the Phoenix family. Joaquin Phoenix's family is most famous for the tragic death of Joaquin's brother, River. However, the family had already gone through a dark and tortured life before River even passed away. Joaquin and River's parents were members of a cult known as the Children of God during the 1970s. This cult, which currently goes by the name the Family International, had an apocalyptic view of the world and a creepy take on the God is love mantra. The cult used sex to convert people while preaching that the world was going to end, and they viewed outsiders as malevolent agents. Luckily, Joaquin and River's parents managed to escape the cult and changed the family's name to Phoenix to symbolize their rebirth into a free society. Number 9 is the Spacey Family. Kevin Spacey once had a highly respected life as a film star, but all of that came crumbling down when accusations emerged of his abusive behavior. While in no way an excuse, looking at his family history provides a glimpse into an upbringing which made such predatory behavior more likely. For starters, Kevin Spacey's father was a self-proclaimed disciple of Adolf Hitler. Nazism and hatred of all races other than his own was central to Kevin's dad's lifestyle. His father also led a secret life as an abuser, turning his abhorrent attentions to Kevin's brother Randy. These allegations were made by Kevin's brother himself, bringing more credence to them. Randy claims that Kevin developed a sly personality to avoid conflict with his father, and that this dark family secret is what led to his own abusive behavior. Number 8 is the Staudte family. Diane Staudte had a horrendous life from 2012 onwards. In that same year, her husband died suddenly. Just 5 months later, her autistic son developed seizures and then also passed away. After that, Diane's daughter Sarah was hospitalized with a flu-like illness and then developed brain damage. They say bad luck comes in threes, but this wasn't bad luck at all. The Staudte family had a horrifying secret. Diane had been poisoning her family with antifreeze. Not only that, but she was secretly helped by her other daughter, Rachel. Diane justified her actions by saying that her husband was violent, that her autistic son was too time-consuming, and that her daughter, Sarah, was a financial drain. As for Rachel, she helped Diane commit the murders so that she could have her mother's attention all to herself. Number 7 is the Howell family. After an unsuccessful marriage in the 1980s, UK dentist Colin Howell remarried. His new wife was called Kylie Jorgensen, and they had a happy life together. Colin became a reputable member of his community and went on to have children with his wife. However, both Colin and Kylie had a dark family secret. Colin confessed to Kylie that he had murdered his previous wife. He'd been in an affair at the time, and he and his mistress decided to kill both of their partners and make it look like an accident. While Colin wanted to hand himself to the police out of guilt, Kylie persuaded him that she could keep his secret safe and that he needed to stay out of prison for their kids. 10 years later, the guilt became too much for Colin, and he finally confessed to the authorities. He received a 21-year prison sentence for his crimes. Number 6 is the Odin family. Alice and Gerald Odin were a happily married couple with children. In their 70s, they were described by neighbors as being quiet and courteous. No one could have known the secrets that they shared. Alice had been previously married. Her husband disappeared in 1974, and Gerald had also been previously married. but his wife and their 2 children disappeared in 1980. When Alice and Gerald met, they had a lot in common. Alice had shot her first husband and buried his body down an abandoned gold mine. Gerald had also killed, but his crimes were much worse. He'd murdered his first wife and their 2 children, hiding their bodies in oil drums at the bottom of a lake. When their crimes finally came to light in 2014, they were sent to prison. But despite this, their daughter Erica says she has no choice but to still love them both. Number 5 is the Tetzlaff family. Victoria Tetzlaff of Argentina grew up believing that her father was a hero. She believed that he had dedicated himself to protect their country from enemies within and without. But Lieutenant Colonel Hernan Tetzlaff had a secret so cruel and evil that he tried desperately to keep it from his daughter. Hernan Tetzlaff was responsible for the theft of hundreds of babies taken from their families during the Argentinian dictatorship of 1976. The children were stolen from those who opposed the dictatorship and given to other families. The parents were then often tortured and killed. Hernan Tetzlaff was responsible for it all, but adding even more pain to this family revelation was the fact that his own daughter, Victoria, was a victim too. Hernan had stolen her from a family, had them killed, then raised her as his own. Number 4 is the Aguilar family. The Aguilar family secret is one of the darkest on this list. Veronica Aguilar was 39 years old at the time, living in Los Angeles with her family. But what neighbors and her own husband didn't know was that Veronica had imprisoned her son, Jonathan, inside a closet. With her husband, Jonathan's stepfather, working away and rarely home, Veronica was able to convince relatives and friends that Jonathan had been looked after in an institute. People had no reason to question this, as they knew Jonathan had severe autism. After being kept in the closet for 3 years, being sedated most of the time, and malnourished by his own mother, Jonathan passed away. When Jonathan's stepfather discovered the truth, Veronica was arrested, and her family finally learned of her horrific crimes. Number 3 is the Brandt family. Sometimes a creepy family secret is revealed, but not by someone confessing, but through a family member's terrifying actions. That's what occurred in the tragic case of the Brandt family. When Michelle Jones of Orlando invited her uncle, Charlie Brandt, to stay with her in 2004, she couldn't have foreseen the inevitable. Charlie arrived with his wife, Terry. Brandt then stabbed his wife 7 times, beheaded Michelle, and then hanged himself. No one knew why a man of no history of violence would do such a terrible thing. That is, until his family secret was revealed. Charlie had murdered his own pregnant mother when he was just 13, but that secret had been kept from the rest of his family, including Michelle and Terry. Perhaps if they had known about his previous crime, they would never have allowed him into their lives. But of course, it was much too late. Number 2 is the Harrelson family. Woody Harrelson grew up in the 1960s with no contact with his real father. He always wondered why, but when he overheard a radio broadcast talking about a man with the same name as his father, the twisted truth was revealed. Harrelson's father, Charles, was a killer. He had been found guilty of murder. Most notably, he was responsible for the first assassination of a US judge in the 20th century. As it turned out, Charles Harrelson was a hitman. He had been hired several times to kill people. But in a bizarre turn of events, he was also present during the assassination of JFK and told Woody Harrelson that he was involved. Photographs show Charles Harrelson dressed as a homeless person at the scene of JFK's assassination, and many believe that he was the second gunman that fateful day. And number 1 is the Phillips family. One of the creepiest family secrets has to be that of the Phillips family. In 1979, 19-year-old Mackenzie Phillips was on the eve of her wedding day. That night, Mackenzie's father arrived with the intention of stopping the wedding from even taking place. Both Mackenzie and her father were heavy drug users, and while they discussed Mackenzie's upcoming marriage, they took heroin. Without getting too far into the horrid details, Mackenzie claims that her father committed incest and that this occurred many times for several years. Her father, John Phillips, was a famous musician at the time, and so Mackenzie's horrific experiences only became known after his death, when she felt comfortable in telling her story. Since then, Mackenzie has campaigned on behalf of other incest survivors, hoping that others will come forward.